Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the drama alert of the Lotus Eaters, because that's what this podcast is going to be for Thursday, the 18th of March, 2021. I'm joined by Callum, and before we get right into the news, I've got a few announcements. So there have been a couple of comments that we've been forced to remove from the website because you are posting things that in America are probably considered acceptable because you have a First Amendment. But in Britain, we have hate speech laws. And I don't want to run afoul of anything too spicy this early in the budding career of the website. So
plus we have a legal obligation.
And we have a legal obligation. So I hate to say it, but I've got to ask you to not be quite so spicy in the comments on the website. Be intellectual if possible, and frame your criticism in an intellectual way, and they won't be able to complain too much. But anyway, we have more premium content. Of course we do. We have the interview with Gad Saad, which is up, and this was one of my favorite interviews because for a couple of reasons. A, Gad Saad is an evolutionary psychologist, which means he's a realist. He's a realist about biology, he's a realist about human nature, and he's pro-Western because he's a refugee from Lebanon, where identity politics had destroyed the country in the 60s, I think it was. And so he's got a really, really fantastic perspective on reality, frankly, I think. And so and he's such a charming fellow as well. So I really enjoyed this interview. It's definitely one of my favorites. And we have a premium article from Ian Miles Chung about the Mumford and Sons debacle, which is hilariously titled, "Don't Talk to Me on My Mumford and Sons." That is a really great title. Now, these are really, really great piece of content. So they are on lotuseaters.com now. Anyway, Callum, what's going on in UK universities?
So UK universities are trash, absolutely trash. They've been trash for a long time. And this is not a commentary on the educational side of universities. It's on the cultural side of universities, let's say.
Right.
Because, I mean, we've had the import of American nonsense with, campus culture for a long time.
Abolish ICE.
And we finally got to, like, the stupidest of stupid. And I'm glad to report that this is a thing because of just it exposes how stupid this is. So, first article, student banned for discrimination after saying Rule Britannia.
What?
She said Rule Britannia, and they were like, that's discriminatory language, get out. So, University
Union suspends 19-year-old who claims she has been disciplined for the crime of being patriotic. I mean, it does sound like that's what that is.
Yep. So the full story here. So she was disciplined by the Students' Union for using discriminatory or racist language after a fellow student complained. The 19-year-old cited a song in a virtual hustings on whether to renew a union policy on the demilitarized campus, where the armed forces are barred from recruiting students or visiting any of the union's buildings or events. So they have a policy in which they ban the military from recruiting students for the officers program because they don't recruit for average staff. On my campus, they recruit for officers.
Yeah, good. I mean, I wouldn't want people coming out of these sorts of universities going into the army.
They probably ruin it. So,
exactly.
Maybe a positive. But anyway, so that's the policy they were debating. And they banned her because she wrote in the chat, Rule Britannia. So officials subsequently banned her from all student union buildings, debates, and services for 2 weeks. So for 2 weeks, she can't go to any of the buildings or debates or anything like that. She's not allowed.
Because she said something patriotic in Britain.
She said, Rule Britannia. That's hate speech now. Good.
I mean,
accelerationism. I don't even care.
It was probably inevitable. Let's just go straight to the end of it.
So she responded by saying, it feels like I'm being persecuted for the crime of being patriotic. She said, it's scary to think where freedom of speech at the university will go from here. That's totally true.
What freedom of speech?
There isn't one. The Free Speech Union said the ban beggars belief and called the Students' Union to rescind the punishment and apologise. I'm glad the Free Speech Union are there. This is why the Free Speech Union are good guys.
Yep.
They will defend things like this. Their members will be defended. And it's good that we have them as an institution now.
Absolutely.
So good boys. They mentioned in here that the reason that they gave for this punishment was that international students raised concerns during an online meeting in December about the presence of military personnel on campus that made them feel uncomfortable, due to links with colonialism and the British Empire.
Britain has links to the British Empire? What are you talking about?
The army. Having the army on campus makes international students feel uncomfortable because the army were around in the era of the British Empire.
Yeah, but you can't exactly separate the British army from Britain.
You can't separate the British Empire from Britain, either. So,
that's an interesting statement of intent there, Callum.
But she makes this point in the hustings. But she just says, if the British military makes them feel uncomfortable, why did they come to a British university?
Well, that's a really good question. I mean, again, if you're expecting to find the British Army anywhere, in Britain is probably the first place I'd look.
Yeah.
But then there are lots of other places around the world you might want to look as well.
But I love the idea that they say international students, and in my mind, I just think the French. Like the French students are upset that they're being destroyed.
German students as well.
Spanish, Italians, Russians.
Yeah, there are lots of people.
But I really love the idea that it's actually French people who are upset about Waterloo or something. I really wish that was the case.
This is why you need to sign up, right? So we can hire Bodade and we can do podcast after podcast going through the history of Europe, because I've been just going through it recently, and it's just England winning and winning and winning, and then Britain winning and winning and winning, and it's such good content. So
anyway, so she said, as I mentioned, if the British military makes you feel uncomfortable, why the hell did you come to a British university? And this was in the hustings, and then there's like a chat section for the hustings apparently, and she started to write in "Rule Britannia."
Based.
That was it. Yep. That was all she wrote. And the Union is quoted in here saying that they said to her, "The language used by you, in particular, the use of the phrase Rule Britannia, could be constructed as potentially discriminatory."
Okay, hang on. No, let's go. They're the exact words, is it?
Could be used.
Could be construed as potentially discriminatory. Now, go back to our value-laden statements that we were talking about, right? Is it definitely discriminatory? Is it definitely saying that, like, I don't know, non-white people are inferior or something like this, right? No, because the British Empire was a giant incorporative project. Hundreds of thousands of Asians and Africans who were involved in the infrastructure and the management, in the army, in the command structures, and politicians. Like this is not like a racially exclusive thing, because I mean, fundamentally, it was made up of the Scots and the English and the Welsh and the Irish. So it's not like it's sort of like racially homogenous.
Never have been.
Exactly. It's by definition a diverse initiative, and so the idea that if we assume that that's what our understanding of Britain is, and then someone goes, yeah, but Rule Britannia could be construed as potentially discriminatory, you've got to take all of that incorporative nature away and then repackage it as something else. So we've destroyed all of this knowledge that we have about Britain, and we've reduced it to merely Rule Britannia could be potentially discriminatory. Okay, but is it? I mean, against the French, maybe, or the Germans, but I mean, they're white, so we don't have to care about their feelings. Is that not the way
I
it
assume
works?
that's how it's meant to work. So they quoted the specifics in here. So that's the broad statement, and they said that they breached bylaws by making that statement to conduct herself in a manner that shall not offend others and shall not use foul or abusive language. Now, what I find interesting about this is, okay, this is university nonsense, right? But for Christ's sake, this isn't where it ends. It always ends up in mainstream politics. We have speech laws on the books in the UK. Grossly offensive language used on the internet is a crime. You can be sentenced to jail or given a fine for putting grossly offensive content online, which can just be comments or videos and so forth.
And if you live in Scotland, it's actually even worse, but we'll get to that in the third segment.
Yeah, so what they're mentioning here is they say that they have a law within the university that says that if you have abusive language or foul language or offensive, well, that's the law. That's also part of the law. So the interpretations you find at universities might sound silly and absurd, but they were silly and absurd 10 years ago, and now they are the law. I mean, imagine people watching are old enough to remember, like, I don't know, the 2000s, the 90s, whatever. And could you imagine on university people saying that, being grossly offensive should get you kicked out of the union, and everyone would probably laugh at it? Christopher
Hitchens would have been in some serious trouble then, because, I mean, he had some pretty extreme statements about Islam.
I know, but that was, something that would be laughed at. That's on the book since 2003. There are people who have been sent to jail and given fines for offensive comments online. So this isn't where it's going to end. And I just love that this is the extension of the hate speech laws. If you follow them to their conclusion, Rule Britannia, that's a crime. We're committing a crime. Anyway.
God save the Queen.
So it turns out this wasn't the full story from the union itself. So if we can go to the next link, this was an exclusive in which I presume the student, gave an interview, and she gave the deets. And the union sent her an email saying, discriminatory or racist language or behavior will not be tolerated under any circumstances.
But we didn't say it was discriminatory. It could be construed as potentially discriminatory. Again, how vague is this? It could be construed. It's like, okay, but is or isn't it? Don't know. And it's potentially discriminatory. Yeah, but is or isn't it? So it's such an indeterminate crime that she's committed here. We don't know whether it's discriminatory. We don't know that it was construed as discriminatory, and yet she's still in trouble.
And again, that is already on the books in the UK as well.
Yeah.
You remember Count Dankula's case. It was if someone could be offended by what he said, which is why the police, when they saw the video...
They had to go and contact the Scottish Council of Jews and says, can you make a complaint, please?
Yeah, so they were like, we need someone who could find this offensive. And even the Scottish Council of Jews, if I remember their argument, he was like, I could find it offensive. I can understand why people might not, but I can also understand that people might. So it's like, well, that's enough. That's enough, I guess. Okay. So they also continue... It is important to remember that the student body at Aberdeen is diverse and made up of many students from many countries.
This in Aberdeen was, oh God.
Yeah, so this is Scotland. So that's the other point she makes, which is that there are free speech protections on universities coming through with the free speech champion and all the stuff we've reported on before from the Tory government, and that's good. Nice to see them actually doing something. But the question is, will this actually apply to Scotland? Because, you know, of devolved powers, most of it's actually handled by the Scottish government.
Scotland's an independent ethno-state, yeah.
Yeah, who are literal Nazis and think free speech is some kind of vague concept that applies only to them when they're giving their special little speeches. So they say that care therefore needs to be taken in the choice of language used, and the local cultural references may not always seem the same to others as they might to you. They're saying, okay, you saying Rule Britannia. Yeah, so she's saying Rule Britannia. She's patriotic, so I imagine this is the sense of, like, you know, Britain good.
Yeah.
But other people might think that that is a phrase that means Britain bad.
Well, that's only because we conquered them.
And therefore, you can't say Britain good.
Cry harder, foreigners.
What a weird argument. Like,
yeah, but just...
if a foreigner might be upset by you being patriotic, we have to ban patriotism.
Yes. That's obviously what their opinion is. But the answer is, of course, well, there are like 5 countries that we haven't invaded.
So
I mean,
get going.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you're going to have to really work hard to find the foreigners who aren't offended by it.
And it has nothing to do with the empire or anything. I mean, the best example of this is probably Sweden. I mean, Sweden being the most pathetic country in regards to social justice nonsense.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll remember back in the day that there was a huge debate about the Swedish flag and whether the Swedish flag was racist or something such nonsense.
I'm sure it was. Yeah.
Jesus, a country that never had an empire. This.
No, that's not true. The Swedes did have an empire.
Yeah,
in,
over
like,
white people.
Yeah, over white people in the 16th century, yeah. But like, or the 17th century. But yeah, I mean, it's not like they had like plantations or something.
No, they were not conquering a quarter of the planet, now were they?
No.
So this has nothing to do with the fact that reality, these people just want to push that anything patriotic and therefore right-wing in essence is bad.
It cracks me up that a discussion about British patriotism is essentially a dunk on the entire world.
I know. So good. One of the nice things about being British. Anyway.
And before the Americans start, 1812.
So this has got a lot
also,
of...
you needed the French.
A lot of, let's say, positive press coverage. So there was like LBC were talking about this, a lot of other people, and the leftists are upset that she's given positive coverage because people are like, hey, maybe saying Rule Britannia should not be banned. Maybe it should be legal. Maybe we shouldn't go down that road.
Maybe it should be legal. Yeah, maybe.
So this tweet, if we can get to it. So this is Otto English, who's a leftist, and he's responding to this, and this is a summation of all the different responses I saw. If you read 19-year-old banned from student union for saying Rule Britannia and don't think, is this the whole story or am I being played here? Then you're the reason that these stories are out there. So he's saying that there must be another reason she's banned. The tabloids are just misleading you. That's what's going on here.
Oh, okay.
And he mentions like LBC talking about
it. Yeah, but I like this unintentionally hilarious moment on LBC this morning when some bloke ran in to complain about cancel culture and then added that people should move to another country if they didn't like Britain. But that's not cancel culture.
What are they taking away from them? They're saying this is advice.
If you don't like the country in which you live and you're not prevented from leaving, why do you stay there? I mean, I think that's a really valid question. I wouldn't live in a foreign country that I thought hated me.
But this is also the nonsense understanding within the left of what cancel culture is. So they think it is just criticism, and therefore anyone whining about it is just whining about criticism.
Sorry, can we just read out this one here? It's probably the line in the song that states that Britons will never be slaves. Oh, get back, John. And someone Scottish has replied, no, they aspire to be the masters. It's like, dude, are you going to pretend that Scotland wasn't an equal partner in the empire and didn't benefit heavily from it? Because this seems like a weird admission.
Yeah. Anyway, so the point here being like, they're upset that they're not telling the full story. Well, what is the full story? She's not a neo-socialist. That's the full story. That's it. So if we go to the next one, this is just one tweet of hers. Like, you can go check out her account if you want, I guess. She's just an S poster. She's someone who's not a neo-socialist and therefore doesn't live like an NPC and has fun with her life. She's able to enjoy memes and jokes and things that make life worth living and not being just a parrot for nonsense. So that's the full story. That's the reason.
How is Voldemort trending on Twitter? The man's not allowed to have social media, and yet somehow he's always trending.
Yeah, they're never going to get over it. It's never. No, I can't make that joke.
Well, they're never going to get over a lot of things, including the British Empire, apparently.
So one of the things mentioned is that the Aberdeen University is this is not just a one-off of stupid stuff. This has been a long time running, and just some of the other stuff that has happened there was also hilarious. So Aberdeen Debating Society banned a student in 2016 for saying gender studies degrees were a waste of time and taxpayers' money.
I mean, I agree.
How dare you make that opinion in a debating society? And then the next one is a bit more high profile. So this is George Galloway. We'll talk about a bit.
Well, I really wish we hadn't arranged the segments in the way that we have, because I'm talking about George Galloway in the last segment.
Don't worry, this is just a reference. So George Galloway attacked by some neo-socialists who were on campus, and they decided to throw glitter at him for daring to have the opinion that women are women, presumably. I don't know what else their problem was.
Scottish
I don't
is
care.
Scottish.
But that's the thing. It's like, this is the culture of these areas, and therefore the culture of your politics. Like, of course, universities are wacky places, but all the people who end up in politics, particularly in positions of power, come from universities. And this is how you end up with, as we've always reported, you can get the next one, the Scottish Hate Crime Bill. That's passed. That's law. That's coming into effect. That will be law in your country. Why do you think these things happen? Because if you have a culture that thinks free speech and human rights are evil, and therefore some kind of right-wing,
a right-wing plot.
Yeah. Therefore,
to prevent socialism.
Which
I guess they
suppose
are.
it is.
Yeah.
It's non-negotiable.
yeah. I mean, and it is something we're seeking to extend around the world, incidentally.
Yeah, that's how they view it.
Rule Britannia.
And if you allow a society that comes about and a culture which thinks that this is all bad, and therefore we must destroy these barriers to socialist nonsense, you get socialist nonsense. You get speech codes on the books. So enjoy yourselves. This is what Scotland has done to itself, in my view. You need to have this cultural pushback. It matters.
Yeah.
And it's not just Scotland, so England also has its own problems. And this is what I found, which I just found really funny. I don't even know what to make of it, but let's go through it. So Leicester University, we've talked about before. So this is one of the stupid things they did, in which they banned English literature from the medieval period.
Ah, yes.
And so they defunded that part of the English literature program and instead replaced it with equality and diversity and gender courses.
English literature in an English university in an English city is clearly the product of colonialism.
Yeah, so they wanted to decolonize that curriculum in which they had English literature, and they instead replaced it with American stuff. So gender and diversity courses.
And that's not colonialism, folks.
Yeah, I mean, you tell me how. But that's not the only thing. Someone tagged Loaded Seeders on Twitter, and I went to it. Let's get it up. Turns out University of Leicester has been doing some other stuff. So they say in here, University of Leicester Student Sex Work Toolkit.
This sounds like grooming.
Huh, okay. So they say in here, the university is committed to inclusion. This includes students earning money through sex work. We are supportive of students who earn money through sex work.
Really sounds like grooming.
Sex work refers to escorting, webcamming, stripping, adult entertainment, phone sex, or other such markets, such as sugaring.
Disavow.
I assume sugaring is where you get a sugar daddy, and he pays for everything.
I have no idea, but it doesn't sound keto friendly, so I'm not into it.
Well, it's got the haram words.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Anyway, so, but here's the point here. So, there's a million things to be thought about, but first and foremost, phrasing. Let's just go for like how they're presenting this, which is, we support sex work, we support students who want to engage in sex work. No, you should not. You absolutely should not, you absolute lunatics.
Why do you sound like you're trying to groom my teenage daughter into becoming a hooker? I'm just saying, like, who
for intolerance and inclusive and diversity and.
But it's going to be some, like, 30 or 40-year-olds who are like, yeah, your daughter should be a hooker. Like, what? Who the hell are you?
That's the thing. Like, even if they don't mean to come across that way, you have. And I don't know how you didn't know. So I'm going to make the assumption that you do know, to be honest. So if we can go to the next link. So this is just finding the source of it. So it was the Student Sex Work Toolkit. If you can load at the next one, John. So this is their website, and then they had a video in here. I watched the video; it's like an hour long, and it's
Chelsea Ma. Okay.
Yeah, so I watched the whole thing, and it was largely garbage, and I'll sort of demonstrate that in a second.
I find it interesting. There's a woman who's written this, though.
Yeah, they say that this project has actually been accepted by 60 universities across the UK and Europe. So,
God, that's embarrassing.
God, I look forward to the hooker university. I guess.
I have a degree in prostitution, thank you. It's like, yeah, okay, but you're still not worth 50 quid. I don't know what to tell you.
So they're not doing that. It's a funny meme.
Yeah.
So they're arguing
mark this space. Yeah.
I don't know why they'd stop here, but I'm sure they'll go further. They're arguing that they're giving support to students who do sex work. So if you engage in sex work, we need to support you.
Uh-huh.
And I was just like, okay.
There's a strange amount of patronage going on from university staff, I imagine. Just supporting my local sex worker.
God, because you know there are laws against professors having sex with students for good reasons.
Yeah.
It's like, this is the workaround, I guess. This is the
I guess it is.
kink in the law, let's say. So the buzzwords out of this were unbelievable. So let's play the first clip just to get a taste of this whole thing.
Equality, diversity, and inclusion. Equality, diversity, and inclusion team.
Research in the area and lived experiences for equality, diversity and inclusion. And this, of course, also intersects with other marginalised groups who are already at risk of violence, such as women, including trans women and people of colour.
Women are a marginalised group.
Inclusion team.
Diversity, a lot of it is about unconscious bias.
Senior Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Officer within the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion team, which I'm going to refer to as EDI. Our EDI governance at the university, EDI and inclusivity. EDI, Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Committee. EDI is not just our responsibility as a team, but it's across the institution in order to try and embed inclusivity as much as we can.
So sorry for inflicting that cancer upon you.
God, just middle-class, midwit women.
But I listened to the whole
wittering
thing
on.
for an hour, and I just couldn't. Like, I don't know if I'm stupid or something. I don't think I am, because I listened to the whole thing, and it's just they keep going around in circles and circles, not saying anything. Like,
Well,
we need to provide support. We'll have a package. We'll have a tour. And they never actually pinned down what on earth they're actually doing.
All of their definitions are circular anyway, so I'm not too surprised.
And just to make that point, let's play clip 2.
So this dignity and respect at Leicester policy and framework that we operate in is sort of outlines our commitment around respect and dignity.
It's just like wasting my time. Why am I
Can I
listening?
be a pro-disrespect activist?
I suppose you can. But the reason I put that out, and I want to quote something from one of the books I'm reading about North Korea of all things. Told you it would come in handy.
What a surprise, yeah.
So this is a book about the Juche myth. So this is arguing that the philosophy of North Korea, which is supposed to be Juche, is largely pointless and a waste of your time. And he gives an example in here in which I think it's an interview between Kim Il-sung and some Japanese article. And he says, when trying to define what Juche thought is, above all, Juche thought revealed the truth that the masses are the masters of revolution and construction. The statement that the masses are the masters of revolution and construction means that the masses are in charge of revolution and construction, and that an autonomous entity responsible for revolution and construction. The thesis that the masters of a revolution and construction are the masters on the masses of illuminating the masses' place in revolution and construction. And it's just to make the point, like, there's a rhyme in nonsensical ideologies, where it's just like, you're wasting my time.
Yeah.
And I find exactly the same thing with equality and diversity and departments and all of their writings. I'm not saying it came from Juche thought, of course, but there is something to it. The fact that it's the same thing where it's wasting your time and you feel like your brain is melting or you're choking on mustard gas.
But the only way you can buy into a bunch of these propositions is if they use nonsensical circular definitions that can never really be defined in like terms that aren't already included in what you're talking about, because it doesn't make any sense otherwise.
Yeah. I mean, there are some other points just to quickly end this because of time. So they mentioned about they need to be in a role to help.
Just very quick, John, can we do the third clip next? Is that all right? A third segment next? Is that all right? Just because it happens to follow on from this.
Okay. So they mention here about the universities need to play a role in working with students who are engaging in sex work. And I just thought in my head the whole time, like, the university students are adults, not children. That's what I don't get. Like,
Apparently.
if the university needs to be involved with students who have been abused while engaging in sex work, surely, no, that's the remit of the police. Surely that's the police's place. That's why we pay them.
I tell you what, if they're encouraging their students to get into sex work, you better really hope they're adults.
Yeah, you better hope. But there's also the question which they even raise, like if it's just sex work, so they keep saying sex work is work, and I'm like, okay, well, yeah, whatever, let's accept that because it is legal in the UK to engage in the stuff if you're not pimping and so on and so forth.
Sure.
Then it's just work. In which case, why does it need a special status? Well, you know why it needs a special status because it's not just work.
For the same reason that trans women need the term trans to define them.
Yeah, so sex work is not good. It is morally bad to engage in pimping and prostitution for a job. And I think society understands this. I'm not saying the people doing it are necessarily bad, but we all know it's a vice. Yeah. It is not something I want to make illegal. Libertarians, calm down. There is no state force behind what I'm saying. But I think, yes, this is bad. I don't think we should encourage people to engage in prostitution. I think we should advise against it. But we're not going to force them. But there's then just the last bit here, which I found amazing, which is just the last clip. And I think this is what they're really trying to get at. Where she asked that should sex workers get free tuition because they're sex workers. Let's play it.
Given that a lot of students start sex work because they are in, a financially difficult situation, why don't the university just exempt students who are involved in prostitution from paying fees?
I mean, seriously.
Look at the smile.
Yeah.
She knows that this is total nonsense and makes absolutely no sense at all, and she should be told to go away, that she's not fit for this job. And instead, everyone's like taking her seriously, so she gets to smirk.
Yeah. If you want to load the next section, but just, I don't understand how people can sit there and listen to this and not like pull their brains out or something. I mean, if you want a better example of how to incentivize sex work and prostitution, I mean, taking away all tuition fees, that would be one. I'm sure that would work. In which case, I just don't believe this argument that they're there for support and helping in times of bad need or something.
It seems like active promotion of sex work among the students of University of Leicester. If you happen to be a parent who has a child thinking of going off to a British university, be careful where you send them.
Investigate universities. Because, I mean, Leicester is a particularly sour one by the stories that keep coming out of it. And if it's in Scotland, good luck. There's Jesus Christ. I mean, saying Rule Britannia is going to get sent you out of the gulag, so...
Yeah. If you're a prostitute, that's fine. If you're patriotic, that's not fine. What was that lady's name? Has she considered a change of career?
I'm sure we could ask.
I mean,
we have an update from the student who was suspended from the university. The decision of my ban is now being appealed, and the university is setting up guidance to make sure it won't happen again. Big win.
Oh, well, good.
Big win.
Massive win.
Yeah. I bet that's because of the Free Speech Union as well, interfering, which is good. I like the Free Speech Union. They're good boys. They're able to defend where it matters. Because otherwise this would just go under the radar and everyone would just ignore it as the student's screwed.
They're a demonstrably necessary thing at this point, which is just how bad things are.
Which has to be the best counter-argument to the socialists who are saying there's no free speech crisis, there's no need to do these things. Well, how can we keep needing to involve a free speech union?
No, that's fantastic. Because if they're like, yeah, well, you don't need that free speech union, so well, then you don't need your workers' co-ops unions and all this sort of stuff, all the socialist-controlled unions. If you feel you need them, well, we feel we need this. Good point. Yeah. Right, so this kind of since you brought up George Galloway, I didn't realize he'd be in the news quite so much. So let's talk about a Twitter beef that went on between George Galloway and Humza Yousaf, because George Galloway has joined or started another political party, and he's doubtless running for a position in the Scottish Parliament. And one of the easiest ways to get attention is by starting a beef with someone, and he did it with Humza Yousaf, and no better target, in my opinion. Humza Yousaf should be the target of Twitter beefs. So if you don't recall who Humza Yousaf is, then where have you been? He's the guy who hates white people. Just openly has a problem with them, spits at them.
Like, unironically.
Yeah, and then creates legislation with which to censor them, which passed, incidentally, in Scotland, as we reported on Lucy's. The person who behaves in a manner that a reasonable person would consider to be a threatening, abusive, or insulting, or communicates to another person material what a reasonable person would consider to be threatening, abusive, or assaulting. This is to be hate crime. And of course, the in any offences in which the individual intended to stir up hatred against a group of persons, or the behaviour in communication is deemed by a reasonable person to likely result in hatred being stirred up by a group. Now, Humza Yousaf is not what I would call a reasonable person, and he has made this legislation. So if it's his standard for what a reasonable person is, then you are definitely stirring up hatred against a group by being. And this doesn't protect you in the privacy of your own homes, of course. And so everyone was against this. And George Galloway, in fact, was against this. He tweeted out, "Hey, hate-filled Humza, you can look into the whites of our eyes if you like. It's the people of Scotland who are not afraid of you or your hate bill." Humza's anti-white rant is probably actually illegal in Scotland at this point, because I think a reasonable person could interpret it as being likely to result in hatred being stirred up against a group, in this case Scots, when he was like, the Justice Secretary. No, that's him. But the other ones, white, I'm surrounded by white people. It's like, yeah, you seem to have a problem there. And so it was St. Patrick's Day the other day that I don't pay attention to. I never virtue signal on social media about these holidays. I did post a clip of the Wikipedia page. There's St. Patrick. He was British. Damn.
What was he famous for, though? Was it like Christianizing
Christianizing the Irish, yeah. But he was a Welsh monk in like the 3rd century or something.
Didn't do nothing.
Well, yeah,
Good boy.
exactly. Yeah, but the point is, Humza tweeted out this: "Happy St. Patrick's Day to our Celtic cousins in Ireland," and then some Celtic gibberish.
Ah.
Really interesting.
Whew. Celtic cousins, Humza?
Our Celtic cousins. Don't marry them, Humza.
But he's the one bringing up, what would you call it? Racial characteristics, ethnic characteristics?
Well, I mean, he seems to be obsessed with them, as in all those whites. The Celtic cousins in Ireland, I don't know how to take it, to be honest. I mean, like Humza Yousaf, he's the son of Muzaffar Yousaf and Shaista Buttar, who are both South Asian.
From the clan of North Clan.
Yeah, exactly. from the clan of Muk Yusuf. And he's married to a woman called Nadia El Nakla as well.
So he married within the community, let's say.
Yeah, exactly. He definitely married another fellow Celt. And so it's like, okay, Humza, like you and your family probably make up the entirety of the South Asian community in Scotland. Like, it's actually kind of amazing that in a country that is 96% Scottish, you managed to find a non-Scottish woman to marry. Like, it really must have been quite a challenge. And so George Galloway responded to this, and this is going to be a lot of this podcast, but it's fun. And George Galloway said this: "You're a Celt, seriously." Uh-oh.
Oh.
Oh, God, just sweating. Oh, God.
The anglers here
dabbing.
have no involvement.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
We don't have a goat in this fight.
That's racist against Humza Yousaf.
Oh, fuck it. Not the people who literally breed goats for a living. The Celts.
I thought you were going to say about him being Middle Eastern.
No.
Well, they do breed goats for a living.
Okay, both of them. So we don't have a goat in this fight. What's the
Pair
problem?
of goat lovers, the pair of them, right? Okay, but yeah, so like, and someone responds going, yeah, he's from that well-known Pakistani Celtic tribe, and it's like, well, the Muk Yusufs have got a long and noble history. Thank you. Don't know why you're saying that, but and then George followed it up with this. Well, Humza, that's the proofs on the next one. Yeah, Muk Haggis, from that well-known Pakistani Celtic tribe. George follows up with this. Well, Humza, you're not more Scottish than me. You're not a Celt like me. You're not working class like me. You didn't go to a state school like me. You're not more socialist than me. Stop pretending you're a poser. I mean, where's the lie? Just to be clear. He didn't.
Ethnic and socialist pride in there, making me want to just like wheel away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just like, okay, but I mean, there's no doubt that he is not as socialist as George Galloway. George Galloway is a pretty radical leftist and always has been.
I think all of these statements are true.
Yeah, I think all of these statements are true. Actually, George, Humza Yousaf got a private education. He's not working class, and I don't think I would assume he was a Celt, judging from his look or his ancestry. Whereas George Galloway does look pretty Celtic, in fact. So, And he also said this, all the Geenit Laldi, which is, again, Celtic gibberish, in the world, Humza will not change the fact that you are a privately educated poser pretending that you're more Scottish than us because you wave SNP flags. Stop pretending.
That's true. He's privately educated, privileged poser.
He is.
He certainly is.
And he is certainly waving an SNP flag, as most posers in Scotland probably do. Very interesting. He also retweeted this. Getting this yet, Humza? You're the only person who made it, and many of us feel uneasy is you and your rage against so many white people being in jobs in Scotland, when in fact Scotland's white population is around 90%. It was a bit higher than that, actually. That's the Scottish percentage of Scotland. There are obviously English people and
so it's like 97
French.
Or something ridiculous.
Yeah, and then the next census will be interesting. You sound racist. People were embarrassed. Look to yourself.
And he's got no one he can blame here. He's not like, you're coming after me for ethnic characteristics. You're the one who brought this up.
Yeah, how dare you bring up race?
You're the one having racist rants in the parliament.
Yeah.
And
so Humza responds with this. George Galloway, you haven't ever managed to get elected to the Scottish Parliament like me, and I suspect the voters of Scotland will show you the cat flap again come the 6th of May. When you're shown the door, please take your race-baiting, you're not a Celt like me mince with you. Unbelievable. That Humza Yousaf would accuse someone else of race baiting and tell them to leave and take it with them. Just I mean, there's no point pointing out the hypocrisy of that. Like, that is just a statement that's so far beyond the pale that you realise that Hamza Yusuf must actually be evil and deliberately, maliciously lying to everyone about the fact that he is just the world's most monumental hypocrite. Like, he just is. There's no point pointing this out because he obviously knows this and obviously doesn't care. He is Scotland's Callicles. His commitment to ethics goes as far as it inconveniences him. And anyway.
I love the chat. It's the pot calling the kettle white.
Oof. Anyway, so the thing is, right, is George Galloway isn't a racist. He's not said anything racist there. I mean, what he said there is true by, like, you know, the terms of reality. And
he's not the one who brought up race either.
You're the one, yeah, exactly, Hamza. You're the one who brings up race on everything. And interestingly, George Galloway, I mean, in 2012, he was elected to the real Parliament, not the Scottish Parliament, from Bradford by pandering to the large Muslim bloc in Bradford and in the Respect Party. And he actually won with quite a swing too, 10,000 odd, one of the largest swings in the polls of a modern political party. So, like, Hamza, like, you didn't get elected to the Scottish Parliament like me. It's like, well, A, that's not very impressive because it's not the real Parliament. And it probably should be abolished, Hamza, because it produces people like you. And B, it's not like he's not been an MP.
Like, how many of your constituents even know you, Hamza?
Well, a lot of them now, and they think he's a bloody racist, don't they?
But here's always the joke of British politics of the constituency, is that no one ever knows who their constituency person is. No one meets them.
Do you know, like, who the MP for North Swindon is?
Do I care?
A suit.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's a suit. It's Justin Tomlinson. Not terribly impressive. Anyway, other checkmarks rush to Hamza's defence, obviously. Solidarity to Hamza. This from Galloway is treading on extremely dodgy territory, really. Oh. Really. George Galloway pointing out that Hamza Yusuf is not Celtic, and he is dodgy territory, is it? Why are we living in a world where we're supposed to pretend that a man of South Asian descent is Celtic? Why do we have to pretend that? Like, no one's saying that he's not allowed to live in Scotland. Like, no one's saying that only Celts can live in Scotland. Not even George Galloway saying this, no one's saying that. But, like, this is extremely dodgy. Why? Why is that where we're going?
I'd love to ask Hamza Yusuf as well, why does Northern Ireland belong to Ireland? Because I bet he's of that persuasion, because all leftists are. It's like, on what basis?
Well, he's an independence.
On what basis? Voter. Well, because of ethno-nationalism. Wait, no, I mean socialist solidarity.
Like... yeah, exactly. That's it, exactly. Yeah. What's he going to argue? But anyway, he's like, Hamza is every bit as Scottish as I am, except only one of us has gone into public service for Scottish constituents, and it's not me. This is seriously unacceptable. Well, thank God for Hamza. I mean, he's done so much for the people of Scotland. He only abolished one of their fundamental human rights. He's done so much for the people of Scotland. And the president of the Scottish National Party said, "Man in a hat tells someone stop being a poser."
Yeah? Well, you wear a hat.
Checkmate. You're no longer a Celt, George. Don't know what to tell you there, mate. The rest is gutter dog whistle politics. But from this source, not unexpected. Ah, yes, George Galloway, noted racist. Long-term... Oh, shut up. Proud to call Hamza Yusuf a friend and still in awe of his mentor, the first Scots-Asian MSP, my dear friend, the late lamented Bashir McCarned. Another traditional Scottish name.
Scots-Asian. Why not Scots-Celtic?
Yeah. What? Yeah, exactly. Why not Scots-Celtic? Why accuse him of being Asian? What, are you a racist? Are you saying he's not a real Scottish person just because he happens to come from somewhere else? Like, his family comes from somewhere else? Is he not really Scottish now? Like, get your own nonsense in order.
Jesus Christ.
Hamza, of course, thanked everyone for their solidarity. He said, "Thank you for your solidarity, folks. Galloway isn't the first race baiter, nor the last I will encounter." Yeah, in the mirror every damn day, Hamza.
Oh, man.
Every day I look at a race baiter and I'm like, God, I'm going to have to go get those white people.
Me, too much white.
Wearing his kilt.
I can't get over the story. What the fuck?
but that's the thing, like, he must be looking at himself in a kilt going, I'm way too white.
Sorry.
The people of Scotland will give him the boot. Let's not give the despicable attention seeker any more of the oxygen of publicity that he craves. Hashtag hope not hate.
Oh, really? You're working with the communists, are you?
He is, of course. But then these people are all communists. All Galloway and Humza and the rest of the SNP. They're a bunch of either communists or Nazis. I mean, take your pick. There's a very fine distinction at this point. But, like, they're way outside. I mean, the thing is, right, George Galloway is not a racist at all. His wife's black, and he has 5 mixed-race children. And he's like, as the father of 5 mixed-race children, I treat Humza's accusation that I'm a racist with contempt. Humza, there is way more evidence that you're a racist than George Galloway. Way more.
I mean, are you dating outside of your ethnic group, Humza?
No! Exactly. Is there a rant about George Galloway going Muslim, 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 or something like that in Parliament? No, there's not, Humza. No, there's not.
Oh.
Like, I don't agree with George Galloway's, like, you know, radical left-wing politics. But if it's like, I mean,
He's
racism...
obviously a man of principle, unlike you.
Yes, that's the point. He's still, you know, like, even if I disagree, I can still...
He's actually respectable.
Yes. Like, it's just insane. He's accused a lot of Scottish people of this sin, and we're all getting sick and tired of it. In fact, most of the racism in this country is deliberately engendered by the SNP. Where's the lie? You know, Comrade Galloway. I can't believe it. And the thing is, he follows this up by going, look, I'm a Celt, but most Scots aren't Celts. And speaking of a Celt, what's special about that? There's only one race, the human race, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, where the hell are we going here? But the thing is, I mean, he's not wrong on any of the things that he said here. So, and he's not said anything that's to suggest like superiority or inferiority. And he's obviously not a racist because of his general career trajectory and his life, his personal life. Humza is the one that went to the country that's 96% Scottish and managed to find his South Asian bride. Not George Galloway.
I mean, George Galloway didn't go to Iraq and be like, this place is full of Iraqis. Clean them out.
Just amazes me. I mean, anyway, this is the current glorious state of Scottish politics, and I love watching it. It's hilarious.
Oh.
This is truly prime entertainment for me.
I'm in agreement. This is the best drama alert nation I've ever seen.
Yeah. But
Oh, man.
all I'm saying is that Galloway is right and Humza is a racist. We have more. I mean, what more evidence would you need of Humza being a racist than his?
I mean, he literally did it in public. He did the thing you would think you would find on tape,
Yeah.
you know, after years of research or something.
Yeah, like a secret hidden tape of Humza Yousaf at an SNP meeting complaining about all the
BAME
white
SNP
people.
or something, where they're all
Yeah.
like, the damn whites in this party or something.
Yeah, the whites are everywhere in this country. It's like, okay, well, I mean, yes, but like, I mean, yeah, the problem with Scotland is that it's full of Scots. But like just in the Parliament, in public, as if what he was doing was a laudable thing to complain about the race of his colleagues all around the country. It's like, okay, Humza, leave. Like, why do you live there then?
God, man. Like, imagine going to a foreign country and being like, this place is full of people who aren't my skin tone. And then being like, I'm in the right. I'm the right one here. Like, surely if you were upset that you went to Nigeria and all the people there were black, you know, you're a white nationalist. Go home to Europe or something.
Could the British Empire not have repackaged this philosophy? They rock up in India and they're like, the Sultan, Indian.
Well, that actually is the British way.
The Merchants Guild, Indian. Like, we demand representation, you know? Like
God damn it, man.
the King of Benin, African. It's just, yeah, duh, Humza. Anyway, so let's carry on with our drama alert nation. This is
what the show's going to be now. I'm not opposing. It's good.
All I'm saying is if it gets better views than normal, then you incentivize this. Okay. But okay. So on Twitter, Candace Owens and Cardi B have got into a bitchy slap fight, and I really wanted to talk about it because I really enjoyed reading it, and I think everyone else will enjoy it too. Let's begin with the clip that started it all.
Any words about it. They call this great. They say this is fabulous, that this is the stuff that children should be aspiring towards. So at the same time, Tucker, that we have kids that are not learning hard academics anymore in school, right? Forget about mathematics and science. You can trust the science and trust Dr. Fauci, but you have these kids learning about critical race theory. You know, they're learning that they should aspire to people like Cardi B. That you see that fundamentally we are seeing the destruction of American values, American principles, and it's terrifying. I think parents should be terrified that this is the direction that our society is heading towards. And again, we are weakening weakening America. That's really what we should be talking about. This is a weakening of American society. We are setting the stage, and it feels like we are looking at corrosion, like we are about to see the end of an empire. America cannot survive. It cannot be sustained under these sorts of values and principles.
Now,
I love the Chiron as well. Elites pretends that WAP is about female liberation.
where are they wrong?
Yeah.
You know, I completely agree with everything that Candace has said there. It really does look like this is the corrosion of the empire. These are not sustainable principles. The things that the upward push to greatness and virtue was not built on WAP. And it looks like WAP is a degradation of American culture. Totally agree. And so Cardi B saw this and posted on Twitter, "Yay, we made Fox News guys WAP, WAP, WAP." Good rebuttal, Cardi. You showed her. She made a bunch of really good points, and you talked about your vagina. So Candace replies with, "Just at me next time directly. You are a cancer cell to culture. Young black girls are having their minds poisoned by what you are trying to package and sell to them as empowerment. I'm one of the few that has the courage to tell you the truth. You should thank me." Do you disagree?
It's a good comeback.
That is a good comeback because it's true.
Apparently it was so good she deleted the tweet as well.
Well, we'll get to that in a second, actually. Like a lot of these we have to archive because, yes, Cardi B decided to delete all of these.
Well, she retreated. She lost.
I'll explain how she lost in a minute. But yeah, so it was. I mean, I totally agree with this. This kind of like total degenerate culture that's coming out of Hollywood and the media and music, whatever. And what has it done, right? What is Cardi B promoting here? She is literally saying, if you look at the lyrics and listen to Ben Shapiro sing the lyrics of WAP, that she is nothing but a wet hole. That is the virtue of Cardi B. She has a particularly wet hole, and men like to put their dicks in it.
Yeah,
that's so empowering. I just can't believe. I mean, that's never been something that prostitutes have said throughout the ages or anything. I mean, and in the song it says there's some whores in this house looping over and over. It's like,
this isn't just, women sex thing as well. Like, this has been a long running criticism within, like, let's say black conservatives about black culture, as it's termed, going back to like rap music. And of course it was funny to laugh back in the day, Fox News complaining about rap music incentivizing violence. It's like, oh, come on, it's just music.
But look where we are now.
That is true. And again, for the libertarians, no one's saying ban this stuff or anything like that.
We're saying morally disapprove of this
but
stuff.
Disapprove of it. I mean, I was watching a Louis Theroux documentary in which he went to, I think it was like Chicago or something. He was hanging out in some neighborhood where there's loads of black people and loads of crime, and he was trying to get, what's the reason here? And the fundamental point he kept running into was the cultural part of snitches get stitches. There's just anyone like, yeah, I got shot by someone, but I'm not going to tell you who it was. I was like, what? Why would you do that? Because snitches get stitches.
Dude, you already got stitches.
You've got a bullet hole, mate.
You got stitches before you were a snitch. What now?
But I mean, if you can't say that those cultural things are a barrier to success, then you're not playing real politics.
Yeah, and the thing is as well is what annoys me about this is it begins with a very fundamentally low opinion of black culture in America, right? And let's be clear, this is a strictly American phenomenon.
Yeah.
You think there are any African countries that would have someone who plays WAP as being on TV and laudable? Oh my God, they're the most socially conservative places in the world. Like, save for Arabia, I suppose. But like
Nigerian society isn't teaching you that the best thing to do is to be a thug if you're a man and a whore if you're a woman.
No, like you will get thrashed by your dad,
beat by the slipper.
Yeah, exactly, and rightfully so. Let me just show solidarity with the Nigerian fathers who are giving their children the slipper at the moment. So this is a purely American phenomenon. This is not like black people that do this. Africans do not do this, right? And I mean, like, but that's the point. It's this really disempowering way of viewing women. Look, black women, all you are wet holes, so be the wettest hole you can be, I guess.
Like, I want to see that on Nike.
And Cardi B's like, yeah, I'm the wettest woman in the world. Like, okay.
Oh man,
can you cook?
Coca-Cola be the wettest woman you can.
Well,
Jesus Christ, I want that on a shirt.
Yeah, be the wettest hole you can be, Cardi B. But the point is, this is deeply enervating and is what we can describe as base, right? There's nothing ennobling, there's nothing glorious, there's nothing forward-looking or upward-pushing. This is all down to the lowest common denominator, and entering into quite a disgusting phase of the culture, I think. And so Cardi obviously turned around and did thank Candace Owens for this advice. Matter of fact, I'm going to thank Candy, which is her name for Candace Owens. She put my performance on Fox News, giving it more views than boosted the views on YouTube, and is counting towards my streams and sales. Stream up and WAP. Remember, grown parents only. You couldn't monitor what your kids watch, no one else. That's interesting, Cardi. Why is this only for grown-ups if this is so good and so noble and okay? Well, it turns out that Cardi B doesn't let her daughter listen to her disgusting music. Why not? So a video posted by her showed her turning off the track when her daughter entered the room. So apparently she listens to her own music, which is weird. Anyway, she got roasted for this on social media, of course, and she replies, "You need to stop with this already. I'm not Jojo Siwa." I don't know who that is. "I don't make music for kids. I make music for adults." Okay. You make music for teenagers, Cardi. Like, this is not adult music. This is teenager music. I'm parents are responsible for what their children listen to or see.
It's that image,
What?
isn't it? It's true. Ah, okay. You can talk about this.
Yeah, what?
Okay, I didn't know if it was her or not. I just remembered it was her.
Yeah. And parents are responsible for what their children listen to. I'm a very sexual person, just not around my child, like every other parent should be. In a follow-up tweet, she added, "There are mums who are strippers, pop pussy, twerk all night for entertainment. Does that mean they do it around the kids? No. Stop making this a debate. It's pretty much common sense." I mean, great conservative point, Cardi. That in fact, maybe this shouldn't be promoted to young people.
So she knows it's bad.
She knows it's bad. She does it anyway. I mean, she gets paid handsomely to do it. And what more do you need? I mean, it's just pure stimulation, isn't it? So why should she feel bad about this? Although, of course, her kid's not going to watch it. But the thing is, there are apparently Cardi B fans who do let their kids watch it. I mean, this is one Linda B.S. Sullivan, who I'm guessing isn't from the black community. I watched the WAP performance with my kids. We all lived, just like we all lived when Madonna performed Like a Virgin. We survived Madonna, Britney and Christina kissed at the VMAs. Okay, hang on a second. How the hell old are your kids? Like, if they watched Madonna perform Like a Virgin and also WAP, then they must